Bike chain slipped off on my way to work today. When I left work 9 hours later, my chain was back on good as new. Ribbit, what random act of kindness has completely turned your day around? When I was bike touring in the US, I went to pay for breakfast and was told by the waiter that my bill was already paid for. The kind person had made the waiter promise not to say who it was. Secret free breakfast. I was having a crap day, tanked a job interview and went through Starbucks drive-thru to get a coffee. As I pulled up to the window, I couldn't find my wallet. I was searching frantically through my bag and car, but alas, it was nowhere to be found. Thoroughly embarrassed, I pulled up to the window and told the woman that I must have forgotten my wallet and apologized. I offered to go home and come back and pay for the drink that they had already made that I assumed would have been wasted. She smiled and reached the coffee into my window and said, "This one's on me. Have a good rest of your day." For some reason her kindness totally caught me off guard. I thanked her profusely and drove off. I may or may not have teared up a little. It had been a bad day. I imagine you as a socially awkward but handsome man, and she thought you were cute. There was a series of bike seat thefts my area. Basically, bored high school kids or whatever would find a bike that's locked and just pop the seat right off and take it, throw it in the garbage, chuck it into the river if it was nearby. A really dong move just to ruin someone's day. Anyways, I parked my bike outside a store one day and went in for around 20 minutes. I come outside and there's this guy standing by my bike. He said some kid tried to take the seat, and he stopped him and stood guard by my bike. I was pretty blown away, cause this guy couldn't have known when I'd be leaving the store. Made me feel bad that I took so long. I'm a cashier at a store where I am often berated or hassled. People never seem to be nice. Someone told my manager that I was a fantastic cashier and that I knew what I was doing. Felt good. This was with my father. During a late night car ride, the car stopped functioning properly, overheating or something, and we had to stop and call for tow. A stranger passes by, saying that he just got off work and asks what's up, so we tell him. He leaves for 5 minutes and comes back with 5 large Gatorades and an entire box of filled with gallon waters for the car. He waits until AAA comes, and declines any rewards and didn't provide any information about his identity. Besides, he worked at a local restaurant. I wish he would have at least told us his name. Newspapers are calling him the Gatorade Slasher. You were most likely his trial run. Today I was on campus feeling like crap, eating a slice of pizza during a break, and I hear, "Hey." I look up and a cute female is walking towards me. She says, "I like your mustache," and flashes a tiny smile. As soon as I could smile back and say, "Thank you," she had passed and disappeared into the crowd of people walking by. One random compliment from a complete stranger can do wonders. I like yours too. Wait, crap. A guy I used to teach with lost his mum suddenly a few years back. He was a reception teacher, so the kids he worked with were 4 and 5 years old. He'd explained to the children that he'd had some very sad news and that he might be a little quiet. One afternoon, it all got a bit much and he couldn't quite find his feet. One of the little girls saw that he was struggling. Bless her, she was a sharp little thing. Marched to the front of the classroom, picked up a storybook and just started reading it aloud. It took ages, but she read the whole book and had the whole of the rest of the class listening to it on the carpet by the end. After that, he felt able to face the world again, and she was super proud that she read a story to everybody. Whoa, this kid is going to go somewhere. Was walking in heels once for the first time. I had no idea what I was doing. I was wobbly the entire time, moving at a snail's pace. I ate crap and fell down face first, on my knees and on my hand. So embarrassing. A nice girl like 20 feet away rushed to my side and helped me up though and ran away before I could thank her. Thanks, kind stranger. Thank you. One time while I was a freshman in high school, I was wearing heels that I had no business being in. Anyway, the heel broke and I was completely mortified. One of my teachers suggested I take it down to the shop class, and sure enough they were more than happy to help put my hobbled footwear back together. I had an overnight layover in a very cold airport recently. I was half asleep and must have been shivering because I was woken up by a girl putting her jacket over me. What a nice trusting person. It was muchly welcomed. You see, I reckon if I did that, I get accused of being creepy as frick. It was another Valentine's Day spent single, and also my first year away from home at university, so I didn't have my family to spend time with and distract me. All of my friends either had plans with their SOs or were too busy to hang out. I was struggling with midterms in several very difficult classes. I missed my family, and I was very lonely. I was starting to hate college. Not a great day. Then I get a package in the mail. It's from a friend of my mom's I met once at a New Year's party and talked to for a couple of hours. She doesn't have any daughters of her own and we got along very well, but I never really spoke to her again. When I opened the package, inside is a gorgeous long grey pearl necklace with a note: every girl deserves a Valentine, and no one deserves this more than an independent, hard-working, beautiful girl like you. I still cry every time I wear it or even think about it. No one has ever been that sweet to me or done something so thoughtful for me like that, with no obligations whatsoever. I want to do this for someone else someday. That is really sweet. My great aunt was eating out at a restaurant during Christmas time. She watched a man and his daughter eat and noticed how nice the father was being to his daughter. My great aunt decided to pay for his bill. The father came over in tears thanking her and saying he only gets to see his daughter once a month due to a divorce. That's like the flip side of the question. It just goes to show what random act of kindness can do for someone else. That's a lovely story. As a note, I'm going through a particularly difficult patch at the moment, so as of late, I've been quiet and mostly trying to keep to myself to ride out the storm. I've worked at my job for 2 years now and have gained quite a few regular customers. 2 of these are 2 older ladies who, from day one, have been 2 of the most beautiful, supportive and caring people I know. They come in only on the days I work, and we usually end up chatting away for a good 20 minutes, even if they don't buy anything. On their visit a few days ago, we began talking about my life, and I let them know what was happening currently, and my plans for next year. After hearing about my difficulty, and my future plans, one of them gave me a few supportive words. Now, they regularly do this, but these meant a whole lot more coming at a time when I needed a friend. She told me how proud she was of me, and how she is sure my parents are just as proud. She is so excited for me to begin my next chapter, how I'm such a beautiful person and how I make her happy every time I see her. She then looked me in the eye and said, "Please, don't become jaded. I would hate to see the light in your eyes burn out. It doesn't seem like much, but given my current situation and an overall feeling of being let down lately, it did bring a tear to my eye. I generally like a lot of people, but these 2 will always hold a special place in my heart." Felt like crap and went out for a ride on my motorcycle. GF had apparently told all my friends, and when I got back our app looked amazing and they threw a party. Love those guys. Come on guys, clean this place up. We've got to make it look like we didn't just film a gangbang before my boyfriend gets surprise. Forgot my clothes in the laundry during finals at college. Came back to my room after 10 straight solid hours of studying. Some girls had folded all my laundry and brought it to my room so it wouldn't get stolen. They became some of my really good friends for the rest of my college days. Nice. Most people probably would have thrown the clothes on the floor and thought they'd have done the same to me. 2 years ago I was pulling my trailer through a small town, Marlette, in the Thumb area of Michigan. As I crossed the RR tracks, one of the shackles broke, causing the leaf springs to scatter and flatten the tire on it. A guy who lived across the road started helping me pick up the pieces and let me put it in his driveway for the weekend until I could get back to repair it. When I came back 2 days later, he had already repaired the shackle and put a used tire on it for me. Unfortunately, he was gone when I came to pick it up, so I left $20, all I had at the time, with his super nice neighbor who promised that he would make sure the guy got it. Thanks Corey. On the flip side, I worked as a service manager at a small town in Michigan. Shout out to Bad Axe. And 2 couples pull up with steam coming out of the hood. They are kind stranded since it's late Saturday afternoon and all the parts stores are closed. I locate a hole in the upper radiator hose and pull out a tool I just bought the day before. Recut the hose and reconnect it. No charge. It was an easy fix that completely saved their day. A week later I get called into the boss's office and he handed me a letter, handwritten, praising me for helping them out in a huge time of need. TL. DR. Got a corporate pat on the back for a 5-minute fix. Good for your company for not being p that you fixed it for free. My freshman year of college, I was hanging out in my room when I realized that I had put a load of laundry in the dryer hours ago. We had so few washers and dryers in my dorm because of the relatively small number of people at my school. But it was still a laundry room for around 200 people, and there was usually some kind of vigilante justice that went on with regard to scumbags like myself who hog the washing facilities. So anyway, I basically leapt down 3 flights of stairs to get down to the laundry room, and when I arrived all of my laundry was neatly folded on a clean counter. My roommate said I had good laundry karma, as she had recently had to dig her laundry out of the trash for doing the same. Me and my bro were on our way to church in the morning on a bad snow day. The highways were barely plowed and it was still coming down. My brother, driver, was on the highway, and before we knew it, we fishtailed and crashed our front end of the car into the guardrail. Both our lights were out. We were facing against traffic. My brother was digging for his phone in panic and I was shell shocked. Keep in mind, it's dark and foggy out, so since our lights were out, anyone could have slid toward us and we would have died in a head-on collision. Then, some random guy in a white truck parked in front of us and he got out to check on us. He then lit flares in front and behind us. As the police came to help me and my brother, the guy who lit the flares disappeared. If it weren't for the flares and the guy helping us contact the police, we probably wouldn't be here. We never got the chance to thank him, nor did we know his name. To this day, I wish I could properly thank him. This happened 7 years ago. His name was Jesus. Buffalo winter waiting for a bus. A Tim Hortons employee came out to give me a free cup of coffee because it looked bad out. Just moved from Rochester to Philadelphia. This made me miss Tim Hortons even more. I have had some great encounters, from free coffee to someone buying me a meal because I had left my wallet at home. I always carry those experiences with me and try to pay it forward when the opportunity arises. For example, a couple months ago I was standing in line at the grocery store and heard the woman in front of me exclaim that she had just had a horrible day. She looked tired and stressed. Then to make it worse, she didn't have enough cash for her groceries and her card was being declined. She asked if they would hold on to her groceries so she could go home and try to get another card. She looked like she was going to break down and I told her I would happily get her grocery bill. At first she seemed unsure and I just told her it wasn't a big deal and that if she really wanted to thank me, just pass it along to someone next time. I hope she has made other people's day just that much better. D. Today you, tomorrow me. Was at the bars tonight with a friend. Stupid me leaves my headlights on. 4 hours later we're ready to leave. Of course car doesn't start. Friends aren't picking up. We go back inside asking people if they could spare 5 minutes to help us out. I have cables. All we got was turned heads and that sucks ma, and finally after 30 minutes a guy who just arrived helped us out. Sure it really wasn't much but it helped out a lot. Well that sucks that nobody came to help. The first year of university, it was a freezing winter, minus 32 degrees Celsius, and my car's battery died. Fortunately this guy who was leaving at the same time had his car right next to mine and was more than happy to help me out. It took less than a minute to get my car running and I was really thankful. It wasn't just a day, but the days counting down to an international move. I had to sell a car fast. I was living in a state with no friends and barely any friends to help me out. Plus my husband was already overseas, but a patron in the bar I worked at, I was the regular bartender at the time, there most of the week, overheard my predicament. He ended up making a phone call to a car dealer friend of his. The next day I'm driving the car over to the dealership. Less than a week later I'm finishing up the sale because they sold my car. They expected no money, no commission, nothing. I later sent a pretty sweet gift basket to the dealership and bought my bar patron lunch plus quite a few rounds at the bar. They really saved my butt. I once ran out of gas while pulling into a gas station. The entrance was a slight hill and my Jeep simply died. I immediately panicked because I was blocking an entrance and I'm a small girl so pushing a Jeep Wrangler would be a task. A guy parked at the closest pump saw me and came over to help. The power steering is gone when the car is dead so it was near impossible for me to steer. He made his 3 sons get out and help him push it to a pump for me. I thanked him profusely and I'm not sure what I would have done without their help. Similarly, I was behind a woman in line at a gas station recently and she was putting $1.47 in gas in her car. That is less than half of a gallon and would do virtually nothing, so I gave her $10 to put into her tank as well. Her smile made me pretty happy. A couple months ago, I was going through some really tough stuff. GMA in the hospital and parents getting divorced. I was doing some grocery shopping, which took forever because I was distracted. As I was leaving the store, a man who had bought some roses stopped me and gave me a single rose out of the bunch. I smiled and was about to thank him, but he took off before I could say anything. Made me tear up a bit because he will never know how happy he made me. I did them, but they made me feel great, so they count. Right? Ann Arbor, MI has a rather no-name steakhouse, and while at dinner my girlfriend in walked about 8 army grunts in full fatigues. The one thing I do not know is the display of military ranking, so they may not all have been grunts, so please forgive me. Anyhow, they happened to be sat at a table in the dead center of this restaurant, nothing but booths around them. Of course they were getting looks, but they were quiet. You could tell they had been through a ringer or two. Longer story shorter, I anonymously paid their bill, gave them a $200 drinking tab, and the servers told the group that their bill was paid for. About half of the room was paying attention and several people stood up to toast them. 'Twas a good moment. As a service manager in IT, I had a customer that I had known for quite a few years, to the point where we BS'd about everyday life and the little gripes that come with it. In a period of about 2 months she had lost her father, her husband left her 2 kids and simply walked out, and she enrolled in school to gain a grasp on her life. Needless to say, this girl had been around the block, a pretty bad life that led to harder drugs, and she needed to flip it around for her boys. Then she came in. While finishing up writing for a midterm, she picked up one of her boys in one arm and the laptop she had the other. The laptop got hit and went sliding and bouncing across the floor. The entire thing was toast. There was literally damage everywhere you looked. I took it in as normal out, breaking the news to her, and she already started crying. The laptop was her only link to school. I imaged her HDD to a new drive and replaced her entire machine. Same model, but all brand new. There wasn't a single piece that was originally hers. So, I gave it to her. Talk about seeing a 31-year-old man tear up and a 24-year-old woman crying happily in hysterics. When she asked me why, my only response was, there are 2 boys that are counting on their mother and you can never give up. I love both of those. Thanks for humanity. The day my daughter was born, my water broke around noon, and of course our PO's car chose that moment not to start. We had just moved into this little trailer park about 5 miles out of town, so we were on our own. The neighbor 2 doors down, a scruffy, bearded, tattooed, Holly riding biker, saw my husband panicking and moseyed down the drive to see what was up. This angel loaned 2 people he didn't even know his car to get to the hospital, and sometime later brought the keys to our car to the reception desk. He had replaced the alternator and brought the car to the hospital so we would have a way home. Never judge a book by its cover and all that. He looked like the stereotypical scary biker dude, but was really a great guy. My car's battery died in the parking lot of the mall where my girlfriend works at 12 AM earlier tonight. I walked to the Walmart a mile or so away and asked someone if they could help. He said everyone was on the clock, but he'd see what he could do. Went to take a leak and grab something for us to drink. Walk out of the store and he's sitting there, in the freezing cold in just a t-shirt, mind you, running around the parking lot trying to catch some people who just clocked out to come help me. Turns out he knows a guy I went to high school with, who also happens to be an amazing guy. They come walking up to me and tell me that they went ahead and drove over, jumped it, and were there to give me a ride back. Crap like that just makes life awesome sometimes. I work in retail and was having a pretty crappy day, customers being buttholes as they do. This lady came through my checkout with her son, who was probably around 3-4, and I could see he was a bit special. As they went to leave, the lady said wave goodbye to her son. Instead he leans in and gives me a kiss on the cheek. I absolutely melted and wore a smile for the rest of the day. I was going to a military academy for college that requires different military activities and details during the summer and got screwed my junior year, so I would only have 4 days off the whole summer. Well, when the summer starts I have all of my travel plans set up and the first part of the summer is at Fort Jackson, so I'll leave my car in New York for when I have to return a month later. After a month at Fort Jackson, I go home to Wisconsin for my 4 days off when I find out that my detail in New York was cancelled because one guy was held back a year and needed to do a detail, so they gave him mine. Since it was going to be my second, giving me almost 2 months free in my summer, I still had a plane ticket to New York, so I decided to fly there, take the train up to school, pick up my car, and drive it back to Wisconsin just so I have a car for the summer. After all that traveling, I get to my car in the parking lot and there is not just one, but 2 flat tires, making it so I can't get to a gas station to fill up my tires. It was a crappy car, so it was just leaky rims and not a hole. I normally had to fill up 1 tire every 10 days or so. As I'm about to go into panic mode because my whole day is now screwed and I'd probably have to call a tow truck, which in New York is expensive as heck, I look and see that someone left a can of spray and seal tire filler. It made it so I could just get full enough to go the half mile needed to the nearest gas station and properly fill up. TL. DL. Find car with 2 flat tires after traveling across the country to pick it up. Good Samaritan leaves can of spray and seal next to car. I left my iPhone in an NYC cab. Thought it was gone for good. But when I went to work the next day, one of my co-workers handed it to me. It turns out that the lady who got into the car after me called one of my recent contacts, a security guard from my job, who had one of the other security guards with a car drive him all the way to the other side of the city, after work and in the opposite that they were headed, to get it for me. And to top it all off, they refused to take any money for their trouble. Although I ended up putting it into an envelope and having the receptionist give it to them when I wasn't there so they couldn't say number. That's a really nice thing to hear, especially for such an opportunistic device like an iPhone. But some people appreciate how much of someone's life is on a phone these days. Nice story. Also bike related. I was on the train with my Megabucks carbon fiber road bike in a bag. On this usual route, the train is usually empty, but not today. Went past a really rural train station and honestly about 100,000 people got on the train. Must have been some local festival or something. Anyway, me and my crew think, crap, our bikes are going to get wet, but before we could move to save them, they were swamped by all the people getting on. Very annoyed and worried, 40 minutes train journey which we thought was going to end in disaster. All the people start getting off the train. When the crowds finally parted, we look over to see our bikes completely unscathed, with a little old man leaning over them with his back to the crowd. He had protected them for us the whole way, 40 minutes of having a sea of people shoving into him. To protect a stranger's pride and joy, he got several beers of us for that act of kindness. Let me tell you, what a great guy. I was on my way home from uni for fall break, a 5-hour drive. I accidentally went the wrong way, which took me a bit longer, but I stopped at a Wendy's with my best mates to grab a Baconator. We ordered our food and sat down in a corner. Shortly after, 3 staff members approached us and thanked us for being so polite and patient. I don't know why people are mean to people in the service industry, but I felt so much better knowing that I made a stranger's day a little better. Baconator. As a kid, me and my friends were walking around our neighborhood trying to shovel driveways. We weren't having much luck since it was an early afternoon on a weekday. This old lady's house looked like it hadn't been shoveled all year, so we just went and shoveled it for something to do. Never went back to the house to talk to her or anything. I just hoped it made her life a bit easier. That's a good neighborly attitude. I had to drive 6 hours with my aunt across the state for a funeral. We forgot to bring cash for the toll road we had to take and were freaking out about it. When we pulled up to the toll booth at the end, the person there told us the car in front of us paid our toll with the message to pay it forward. I was supposed to meet a group to work on a project on a school holiday. We all previously agreed that this date would be the best time, despite cancelled classes. But nobody showed up but me. A lot had already been stewing in my head. Boyfriend's house had just been foreclosed on. Relationship was on the rocks. Work and school were overwhelming. And just general daily crap. Our designated meeting space was an area behind one of our academic buildings where there are some vending machines, seats, etc. Anyway, I'm sitting alone, feeling pee and dejected, and I probably looked as miserable as I felt. Then walked by one of the cafeteria staff. This guy was really tall, tough, and, as rumor had it, recently released from jail. He made a beeline straight to the vending machine, and on his way back, he stopped and looked at me and brought me the soda. Strawberry Fanta. He just bought and said, "Hey, looks like you need this." I thanked him and told him that he didn't have to give me his soda, but he smiled and just left. It was an unexpected gesture that really picked up my spirits that afternoon. Yeah, it was a strawberry Fanta. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.